Food security and particular political systems. The cause of sudden famines is very complicated, but evidence suggests a correlation between famine and non-democratic political systems. In democratic societies, there is more accountability and powerful interest groups, which lessens the chance for famine. Welcome to Suya e-learning for food security, climate change, school feeding program, nutrition education for all. When you have bad governance and poor accountability from your local government leaders, then you are doomed to live under control of cartels and fools. We hope you subscribe to our channel YouTube at Suya Mombasa and share this links with your friends or family. Food security operates within a neoliberal framework, prioritizing large-scale production, market distribution, and corporate involvement to increase global food availability. In contrast, food sovereignty emphasizes localized, community-controlled food systems to address the shortcomings of food security. What are the four pillars of food security? Is essentially built on four pillars: availability, access, utilization, and stability. An individual must have access to sufficient food of the right dietary mix, quality, at all times to be food secure. Those who never have sufficient quality food are chronically food insecure. Food of peoples to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through socially just, ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and their collective right to define their own policies, strategies, and systems for food production, distribution and consumption. How did slave trade start in Africa? Slavery in northern Africa dates back to ancient Egypt. The New Kingdom, 1558 to 1080 BC, brought large numbers of slaves as prisoners of war up the Nile Valley and used them for domestic and supervised labor. Ptolemaic Egypt, 305 BC to 30 BC, used both land and sea routes to bring in slaves. More than 8 out of 10 Africans forced into the slave trade crossed the Atlantic between 1700 and 1850. The decade 1821 to 1830 saw more than 80,000 people a year leaving Africa in slave ships. Well over 1 million more, 1/10 of those carried off in the slave trade era, followed within the next 20 years. Africa's food systems confront a multitude of challenges, not limited to climate change, biodiversity depletion, pollution, conflict, migration, external crises, and shocks. Furthermore, regulatory impediments, inadequate funding and infrastructure deficiencies compound these issues. Africa Can Feed the World, Dar es Salaam, the 19th of September, 2023. Delegates numbering more than 5,000 and representing over 90 countries converged to explore strategies to harness Africa's vast potential in expediting the development of regional, national and sub-national food systems that would not only benefit the continent but also the entire world. An estimated more than $4 billion in soil nutrients is lost each year. However, many African farmers still do not have access to fertilizers or cannot afford the inputs required to bring life back into their soils and halt the downward spiral of environmental deterioration. Empty soils, empty stomachs, empty livelihoods. promoting and projecting the transformational opportunities of agriculture, acknowledging the transformative potential of African agriculture, as it is anticipated that by 2030, the agribusiness sector in Africa will reach a value of $1 trillion, with smallholder farmers contributing to 70% of food production. Mainstreaming women and young people for better nutritional outcomes, recognizing the need for heightened efforts to improve nutritional outcomes, particularly for women and children. Aligning sustainability considerations, underlining the importance of environmental and climate considerations in food system transformation, with a focus on climate adaptation strategies. It was proposed to integrate food system transformation actions into National Determined Contributions, NDCs. Challenges and opportunities, new line. While Africa has immense potential, it faces challenges such as lack of investment in agriculture, outdated farming techniques, and infrastructure limitations. New line. Key strategies, new line. To realize its potential, Africa needs to prioritize, new line, investment in agricultural farming practices, providing access to technology, and improving infrastructure. New line. Supporting smallholder farmers, recognizing their crucial role in food production and providing them with access to resources and markets. New line. Promoting intra-African trade, facilitating trade within the continent to reduce reliance on external food. Line. Addressing climate change, implementing climate-resilient agricultural practices to ensure sustainable food production. Desertification is generally viewed as an advanced stage of land degradation. The UN has defined desertification as a diminution or destruction of the biological potential of the land, which can lead ultimately to desert-like conditions. Desertification can occur when extended periods of drought in arid, semi-arid, or dry subhumid areas, known as drylands, sap the land's productivity until it becomes dead soil. In addition, human activities often contribute to the process. While people have managed fragile dryland successfully for millennia in many parts of the world, pressure upon the land is much greater today as roughly 2 billion people inhabit drylands around the world. On the 15th of March, 2022, the UN General Assembly unanimously adopted a resolution entitled International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, 2026 at the initiative of Mongolia. Currently, pastureland accounts for more than half of the world's land, with over 200 million people raising livestock in pastoral and agro-pastoral systems across all regions, and the sector plays a significant role in the global economy and achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. However, in recent years, on the one hand, rangelands and pastures have been affected by increasing climate variability and soil degradation, and on the other hand, pastoralists are facing many problems, including insecure tenure rights and land use change, as well as limited access to markets, education, and health services. Therefore, for the pastoral populations and for the global sustainable development, in 2018, the government of Mongolia put forward an initiative to proclaim the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, and its tireless efforts in cooperation with organizations and mechanisms such as the UN FAO, UNEP, and International Support Group have yielded the current UNGA resolution to celebrate the year in 2026. To restore and regenerate Africa, initiatives like the African Forest Landscape Restoration Initiative, AFR 100, aim to restore 100 million hectares of degraded land by 2030, focusing on community-led restoration and regenerative practices. New line. The Restore Africa program has been designed for inclusive and collaborative implementation with the governments of participating countries, members of the Global Evergreening Alliance, grassroots organizations, and the private sector. 34 African heads of state and government, along with scores of ministers and international partners, came together in Dakar to mobilize investment and move forward plans to harness Africa's immense agricultural potential. Technology is key to transformation. Many of the presidents at Dakar too said that technology was key to increasing farmer yields across Africa. Although 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land is in Africa, smallholders would not need to cut down forests if they were able to increase the productivity on their existing farms. 34 African heads of state and government, along with scores of ministers and international partners, came together in Dakar to mobilize investment and move forward plans to harness Africa's immense agricultural potential. Technology is key to transformation. Many of the presidents at Dakar too said that technology was key to increasing farmer yields across Africa. Although 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land is in Africa, smallholders would not need to cut down forests if they were able to increase the productivity on their existing farms. The 7 Principle of Kwanzaa. Umoja, unity, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Kujichagulia, self-determination. Ujamaa, collective work and responsibility. Bjama, cooperative economics. Nia, purpose. Kumba, creativity. Imani, faith. Africa is blessed continent, has everything plentiful food, minerals, gold, diamonds, etc. Accept leaders to lead the country. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. African proverb, cooperation. Whether you are a teacher, school leader, or simply someone interested in experiencing the joy and fulfillment of challenging kids with big ideas, attaining food security is a complex task for which the primary responsibility rests with individual governments. They have to develop an enabling environment and have policies that ensure peace, as well as social, political and economic stability and equity and gender equality. It has been argued that a right-to-food approach to food security is not based on vague and replaceable policy goals subject to periodic redefinition, but on existing, comparatively specific and continuously becoming more precise obligations undertaken by governments.
Head on to the streets. The generation of Kenyans born between 1997 and 2012, the Gen Zs, have borne the brunt of the country's slow economic growth. If a country has slow economic growth, it typically experiences higher unemployment rates, reduced income levels and decreased investments. It leads to an overall lower living standard. Over the last 10 years, between 2013 and 2023, Kenya's average growth rate has been 4.52%. This is less than half of the 10% growth rate that President Mwai Kibaki had envisaged in Vision 2030. The National Development Plan's goal was to transform Kenya into a middle-income country providing a high quality of life to all its citizens by the year 2030. But Kenya is still far from it. PhD in Plant Ecology: Influence of Human Activities on Land Use Changes on Environmental Quality of Riparian Ecosystems, a case study of Siwa Watershed, Western Kenya. In addition to the PhD, the President holds bachelor's degree in botany and zoology and a master's degree in plant ecology, all from the University of Nairobi. Ruto authored several papers including a paper titled Plant Species Diversity and Composition of Two Wetland in the Nairobi National Park, Kenya.
To successfully implement its commitment to advancing Kenya's bottom-up economic transformation agenda for food security and enhancing the capacity of farmers, Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development recognizes the need for a strategic and comprehensive communication approach. Enhancing visibility of ministry projects. The ministry has been actively involved in numerous citizen-centered policies, programs, and projects aimed at boosting agricultural productivity and ensuring food security. Creating a community of practice. The ministry aims to foster collaboration and knowledge sharing among stakeholders through the creation of communities of practice. This involves using digital platforms and in-person forums to facilitate continuous dialogue and the exchange of innovative ideas in agriculture. The consultancy firm will be instrumental in managing these platforms, ensuring active participation, and driving engagement that results in strengthened networks and partnerships across the agricultural sector. Kenya has had a long and calamitous history of political violence and corruption since it gained independence from British colonial rule in 1963. Much of this conflict is rooted in ethnic tensions between different tribes, which many historians attribute, in part, to decades of British colonial rule that intentionally played major tribes against one another. In this year's presidential election, the Kikuyus and Luos were once again competing for the highest office in the land. During the first devolution cycle, we laid the foundation. On this second cycle of devolution, we will emphasize on development.
The Kolro strategic plan outlines initiatives aimed at enhancing agricultural productivity, improving market access, promoting sustainable farming practices and fostering innovation across the sector. Through targeted innovations and collaborative efforts, the plan aims to empower farmers, increase resilience to climate change, and ultimately drive positive change in the agriculture sector.
Content production. Produce weekly, monthly, and quarterly content that showcase success stories, milestones, and testimonials from various projects. Develop creative messages for posters, blogs, and other digital content designed to engage the agricultural community. Create a comprehensive photography and media database, including images of ministry events, technology transfer initiatives, and field activities.
Agriculture and food. Agriculture can help reduce poverty, raise incomes and improve food security for 80% of the world's poor, who live in rural areas and work mainly in farming. The World Bank Group is a leading financier of agriculture. Healthy, sustainable and inclusive food systems are critical to achieve the world's development goals. Agricultural development is one of the most powerful tools to end extreme poverty, boost shared prosperity, and feed a projected 10 billion people by 2050. Growth in the agriculture sector is 2 to 4 times more effective in raising incomes among the poorest compared to other sectors. But agriculture-driven growth, poverty reduction, and food security are at risk. Multiple shocks, from COVID-19 related disruptions to extreme weather, pests, and conflicts, are impacting food systems. The goal of ending global hunger by 2030 is currently off track. Conflicts, climate change, and high food prices are driving food and nutrition insecurity.
County Strategic Priorities, Programs and Projects, 2024 to 2025. Blue Economy, Agriculture and Livestock. To be an innovative, commercially oriented and modern blue economy and agricultural sector. Mission to improve livelihoods of the fishing and farming community in Mombasa through promotion of competitive blue economy resource exploitation, innovative research and sustainable crop, livestock and fisheries development. The goal of the sector is to improve livelihoods by promotion of competitive crop, livestock and fisheries production, appropriate policy and environment development, effective support services, sustainable natural resources and land management. Objectives: to improve food and nutrition. Security through access to affordable agricultural farm inputs and provision of efficient extension services. To improve productivity of livestock and livestock produce through effective extension services. To increase livestock farmers' income. To ensure sustainable use of fisheries resources for better livelihoods for fisher folk and food security of the county. To prevent and control animal diseases and pests from within and outside the counties. Key statistics. Area, 212.48 square kilometers. Agricultural land, 129.1 square kilometers. Land under crop production, 23.22 square kilometers, which is 18% of the total agricultural land. Urban area is 140.6 square kilometers. Population, 1,208,333 persons or 2022 population. The total population and will rise to 1,422,440 persons by the end of the planning period in 2027. Irrigation potential, 13 square kilometers. Irrigated, 2 square kilometers, 15% of the total irrigation potential. Farm families, 24,200. Staff, 37 technical staff and 51 administration staff. Staff, farmer ratio, 1 to 781. Number of licensed poultry slaughter slabs, 5. Environment and solid waste management vision. A sustainable, clean and green environment. mission to promote an effective and efficient system for a sustainable, clean and green environment to the residents of Mombasa County. Strategic objectives: to promote institutional, legal and regulatory stewardship in sustainable, clean and green environment. Ensuring compliance to environmental legislation in promoting clean, healthy and green environment within the county. To minimize waste generation and promote reuse, recovery and recycling of waste materials and sustainable waste disposal. To promote an enabling environment for transforming Mombasa County towards a climate-resilient development to promote clean and safe energy in Mombasa County. Kenya, Mombasa County is planning to put 10,000 acres under irrigation to boost food production. The move will also diversify agriculture to include fishing and livestock production. The Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries docket plans to put more acres under irrigated agriculture, introduce hybrid local, kienyeji, chicken farming and rabbit rearing as well as mariculture and aquaculture. Beginning this financial year, we will put 10,000 acres under irrigation to boost food production for 1,000 farmers in Wakirunj and Dongo areas, explained Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries Development County Executive Antonine Jaramba. He noted that the docket was allocated 319 million shillings against 1.2 billion shillings budget, in line with the Maputo Convention, which recommends 10% of the budget, but noted that several projects would still be rolled out. The County Assembly has passed a 12 billion shillings budget for the current financial year ending in June next year. He noted that the development budgetary allocation for agriculture in the county this financial stands at 29 million shillings, while fisheries, which has a huge potential, will get 76.7 million shillings. Meanwhile, the County Assembly has approved 8.36 billion shillings for recurrent expenditure and 3.8 billion shillings for development expenditure. Inspiring the next new generation of growers and eaters, value additions. Not every student is going to grow up to be a farmer, but we believe that everyone should understand where their food comes from and make healthy choices about how to fuel their bodies. That's why we're excited to create a community of teachers, community members, and school administrators who share a common goal of helping kids develop healthy eating habits. We're committed to creating engaging, hands-on learning experiences that connect students to the earth, their food, and each other, all while integrating classroom concepts in subjects from language arts to STEM.
This development node should provide agricultural support services to extensive and plantation agricultural, intermodal transfer facilities between road and rail, tourism activities based on the historical significance of the area, arts and crafts, service industries linked to agricultural activities, retail, commercial, complementary social facilities, and housing provision. Kenya's population is estimated at 54,985,702. Generation Z is the most populous with 18,378,493 inhabitants representing 33.42%. Millennials are 12,123,453 representing 22.05%. Both generations make up 55.47%.
With the year 2050 creeping ever closer, the United Nations projects that by then Africa's population will have doubled. Africa currently accounts for 16% of the world's population. By 2050, a quarter of the world will be African. Africa's population is exploding. It currently accounts for roughly half the global increase and every 2 years. Adds as many people as live in France. By 2100, 2 out of every 5 people on Earth are expected to be African. The United Nations projects that by 2050, Africa's population will reach close to 2.5 billion. Such a figure would mean that more than 25% of the world's population will be African. Its population growth will slow thereafter, but Africa will remain by far the largest source of growth globally. Its share of the world's population is set to reach close to 40% by the end of the century. It is estimated the current production of food will need to double by 2050 in developing countries to meet future needs. Current production is well below the levels needed to feed the population, and 2/3 of the continent rely on imports to subsidize food shortages. Africa has one of the world's fastest population growth rates. Growth models project the continent's current population of about 1.3 billion people will nearly double to 2.5 billion by 2050, and it's likely to keep growing beyond that. At the same time, malnutrition is widespread in Africa. 21% of the population faces food insecurity, and the continent is especially vulnerable to climate change. Warmer regions are already experiencing desertification, and areas of low agricultural productivity are susceptible to climate shocks from adverse weather, drought, flooding, and erratic rainfall. The combined effects of population growth and climate change raise a serious question for the continent: how will Africa feed its growing populace in increasingly unfriendly conditions? The objective of the summit is to bring together all relevant stakeholders to highlight the crucial role of fertilizer and soil health in stimulating sustainable pro-poor productivity growth in African agriculture, and to agree on an African fertilizer and soil health action plan, as well as the Soils Initiative for Africa. Expected outcomes. It is expected that a 10-year action plan to be endorsed, which will deliver concrete recommendations for steps to be taken by African leaders and stakeholders over the next 10 years. The action plan will provide a focus for new policies and investments that will enable farmers to work toward rebuilding soil health and ultimately increase yield responses and profitability of fertilizers. It is also expected that the action plan will be endorsed by leading private and public sector partners across all African countries, with the following: 1. Nairobi Declaration. 2. 10-year action plan. 3. Soil Initiative for Africa, SIA. 4. Mechanism to finance the action plan, post-summit implementation process. Soil Food Web Approach. After discovering the soil food web approach, nature's soil operating system, nearly 4 decades ago, and pioneering research in the field, Dr. Elaine Ingham is recognized as the foremost soil biologist in the world. The complete soil food web can be found in virgin soils around the world. Dr. Elaine's soil food web approach is the key to rapid and effective soil regeneration. Only with the complete soil food web in place can the ecological functions of the soil be restored, protecting and purifying the world's waterways, reversing climate change, and providing super nutritious foods. Using soil amendments, most soils can be regenerated in the first growing season.
To care for the soil, we must understand that it is made of both living and non-living parts. The non-living parts of the soil are formed from broken down rock and decaying plant and animal material, such as leaves that have fallen on the soil and begun to rot. The living parts are the tiny creatures that live in the soil. Some of these, such as termites, worms and beetles, are large enough for us to see, but most are too small to see without a microscope. We call these microbes, and they include millions of tiny bacteria and fungi. Microbes and soil fertility. Microbes are very important for improving soil fertility. They take the non-living parts of the soil and convert them into nutrients that can be used by plants. Chemical fertilizers, apart from being expensive and hard to access, can kill microbes. This is one of the reasons that they reduce soil fertility in the long term.
According to data from the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics, the overall price index of farm inputs has increased from 98.6 points in 2019 to 167.3 points in 2022, reflecting higher prices of inputs such as fuel, fertilizer, seeds, and manufactured feeds. Risk of additional food shortages. Second, rising input prices raise the risk of further food shortages. As input prices rise, some, particularly poorer, farmers will be unable to buy them and will choose to do without or with less. In the absence of other changes to farming practices, this lowers yields. This, in turn, reduces food availability, putting further upward pressure on prices and farmer incomes, and the effect will again likely be largest for lower-income farmers, particularly in Africa. In the Fertilizers and Animal Foodstuffs Act, Cap. 345, the term fertilizer does not include manure, compost, wood ash, gypsum or refuse when sold in its original condition and under the same name, nor does it include organic fertilizers, other than lime. This law has had its deficiencies in ensuring effective regulation of the fertilizers, including bio-fertilizers. People are increasingly becoming health conscious. In response to this, organic farming has gained currency globally. The issues around organic farming include research and development, standards and guidelines, commercialization, quality assurance, regulation. Most of the small-scale farmers use organic fertilizers such as farmyard manure and compost and recycle crop residues as a means of sustaining and improving the fertility level of soils. Organic fertilizers provide organic matter which not only provides nutrients to the soil but also improves the physical, chemical and biological status of the soil. The limited amounts of organic sources of plant residues and their very low nutrients content work against reliance on them as major sources of nutrient supply. Moreover, the beneficial policies and acts that reinforce the efficient use of organic resources, such as the prohibition of the burning of crop residues, have been weakly implemented due to lack or weak institutional arrangements. 1. Lack of appropriate packaging and labeling of organic fertilizers. 2. Lack of standards for organic fertilizers. 3. Danger of use of contaminated raw materials. 4. Inadequate material for composting. 5. Lack of a regulatory organization and/or legislation to deal with organic fertilizers. 6. Information on organic fertilizers. A new report has revealed that only 20% of Kenya's soil is suitable for food production, indicating worrying times ahead for Kenya's food basket. According to the Soil Atlas Health Report 2025, Kenya's soil has undergone massive degradation, with the country losing 26 tons of soil per hectare annually through water-induced erosion, with some areas exceeding 90 tons. Soil is a vital resource that impacts food and nutritional security. Research shows that soils are also indispensable in the fight against climate change because they store more carbon than vegetation and the atmosphere combined. Carbon is absorbed from the atmosphere by plants and then stored in soils through the plant's roots. As per the report, this in East Africa, where over 40% of soils are degraded, threatening the region's agricultural foundation and resilience.
To care for the soil, we must understand that it is made of both living and non-living parts. The non-living parts of the soil are formed from broken down rock and decaying plant and animal material, such as leaves that have fallen on the soil and began to rot. The living parts are the tiny creatures that live in the soil. Some of these, such as termites, worms and beetles, are large enough for us to see, but most are too small to see without a microscope. We call these microbes, and they include millions of tiny bacteria and fungi. Microbes and soil fertility. Microbes are very important for improving soil fertility. They take the non-living parts of the soil and convert them into nutrients that can be used by plants. Chemical fertilizers, apart from being expensive and hard to access, can kill microbes. This is one of the reasons that they reduce soil fertility in the long term. Procedure for mass multiplication of waste decomposer. The waste decomposer could be mass multiplied by a simple technique that is practically applicable to the farmers. This protocol is standardized by Krishan Chandra in 2015. Take 2 kilograms jaggery and mix it in a plastic drum containing 200 liters of water. Then take 1 bottle of decomposer, 30 grams, and pour all its contents in a plastic drum of 200 liters containing jaggery solution. Avoid direct contact of contents with hands. Mix it properly with a wooden stick for uniform distribution of waste decomposer in the drum. Cover the drum with a paper or cardboard and stir it every day once or twice. After 5 days, the solution of the drum turns creamy. The farmers could prepare the waste decomposer solution again and again from the mother culture solution by the addition of 20 liters of waste decomposer solution into a drum with 2 kilograms of jaggery and 200 liters of water. So, again it would be ready in 7 days.
There will come a time when only those that know how to plant will be eating. Chief Oran Lions. If you like African food systems content, please subscribe and share our channel with your friends and family, or if you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you make sure to never miss our weekly presentation podcast. Agriculture is tool to create health, wealth, shelter, protect environment, food, nutrition and basic skills development for our local communities. How is water managed in Kenya? The Ministry of Water and Irrigation, MWI, is the key institution responsible for the water sector in Kenya. The ministry is divided into 5 departments: administration and support services, water resources management, irrigation, drainage and water storage, and land reclamation. Water resources are stressed and unevenly distributed throughout Kenya, with approximately 85% of the country classified as arid or semi-arid. Overall, 33% of Kenya's water resources originate outside of the country. The 2010 Constitution guarantees the principle of public participation and freedom of information and underscores the right of citizens to present any issue before Parliament. The other centerpiece of the 2010 Constitution was the devolution of power to Kenya's 47 county governments. County governments represent the level of government closest to the people, therefore, they directly influence the effectiveness of policies and strategies at a local level. Coordination. An effective policymaking process should involve coordination among different government agencies and departments to ensure policies align with other government priorities and objectives. Although coordination mechanisms are in place, their effectiveness has been less than optimal. Africa has recorded progress on many of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals since 2000, however, the current pace of progress has been insufficient to achieve the goals by 2030. The 2030 Agenda. Member states recognized many challenges to sustainable development, including the fact that billions of citizens continue to live in poverty and are denied a life of dignity, rising inequalities within and among countries, enormous disparities of opportunity, wealth and power, gender inequality, unemployment, in particular youth unemployment, the fact that global health threats, more frequent and intense natural disasters, spiraling conflict, violent extremism, terrorism and related humanitarian crises and forced displacement threaten to reverse much of the development progress made in recent decades. The present report describes the status of Africa in its implementation of the 2030 Agenda and a projection of where the region and its subregions will likely be in 2030 if the current trends and pace of progress are maintained. It comprises 2 main sections. County Government of Mombasa County Treasury. The county government is inclined to revamp social program to spur the economy and improve the quality of life of its citizens. The county priorities and goals outlined herein are based on the County Integrated Development Plan 2023 to 2027, Governor's Manifesto and the inputs from stakeholders. The key county proposed priority areas are revamping of quality and affordable health services, youth empowerment, cohesion and inclusivity education and training, streamlined waste management services, investment promotion.
If we wait for others to take action on our behalf, we'll be waiting a lifetime. But, if we change our mindset to a mindset of hope and faith in what's just, then nothing is stopping us. This quote serves as a reminder that change starts with individual action and that each one of us has the power to shape the world around us. In today's world, it is easy to feel overwhelmed by the problems and challenges that we face. From poverty and inequality to environmental destruction and social injustice, the problems we face seem insurmountable. However, Gandhi's words remind us that change is possible, and that it begins with us. Being the change we wish to see in the world requires us to take action and stand up for what we believe in. It means living our values and principles, even when it is not easy or popular to do so. It means being a beacon of hope and positivity in a world that is often filled with darkness and negativity.
1. Skills must be contextualized, personalized, and relevant to students' needs. 2. Skills must be essential and holistic for youth physically, mentally, socially, and intellectually. 3. Skills must be equitable for the development of all children and must consist of lifelong learning for all. For skills must be transferable or adaptable to diverse and changing contexts of society and technology. A farmer works really hard day and night that the people do not starve to death. Let all thank them and respect. Farmers are backbone of a country, and you can't stand straight if your backbone is broken. The life of a farmer is very tough as he works very hard day and night in all seasons for all of us. Farmers are the backbone of our society. They are the ones who provide us all the food that we eat. As a result, the entire population of the country depends upon farmers. Be it the smallest or the largest country. What is the backbone of African economy? Agriculture is by far the single most important economic activity in Africa. It provides employment for about 2/3 of the continent's working population, and for each country contributes an average of 30 to 60% of gross domestic product and about 30% of the value of exports.
From a point of view, the statement itself suggests that people with right attitude and choices can escape poverty. Implicitly, this also means that people are poor because they aren't working hard and they once made bad choices and decisions that landed them in poverty and kept them there. Poverty is a state of mind that can be changed by self-belief. Staying happy with the bare minimum and having a rich mindset will be effective. We can focus on things we have rather than those we want to have. Happiness can be attained without a huge amount of money. Good governance has 9 major principles or characteristics. Participation. Good governance is participatory nature, requires that boards and organizations become more equitable and diverse, consensus-oriented, accountability, transparency, responsiveness, effectiveness and efficiency, equity and inclusiveness, rule of law. What are the 5 pillars of governance? Shared vision. Bring citizens together to create a shared vision of their nation, authority over the land. Document historic and present-day connections to territory, expansion of jurisdiction. Exercise authority beyond the Indian Act, transparency and fairness, human resource capacity. Small rain-fed fields and local livestock farms provide more than 75% of Kenya's agricultural output. Given that Kenya is unable to meet its food consumption goals domestically, the country relies on imports to make up the balance. Importation of agricultural goods. Although Kenya's agricultural policies from independence talk of achieving food security, every action taken in the agricultural sector is aimed at ensuring that Kenya will always be a net importer of food. Importation of agricultural goods. Although Kenya's agricultural policies from independence talk of achieving food security, every action taken in the agricultural sector is aimed at ensuring that Kenya will always be a net importer of food. Over 80% of the Kenyan population live in the rural areas and derive their livelihoods, directly or indirectly, from agriculture. Given its importance, the performance of the sector is therefore reflected in the performance of the whole economy. The national values and principles of governance in this article bind all state organs, state officers, public officers and all persons whenever any of them A. applies or interprets this constitution. B. enacts, applies or interprets any law, or C. makes or implements public policy decisions. 2. The national values and principles of governance include A. patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy and participation of the people. B. Human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination and protection of the marginalized. C. Good governance, integrity, transparency and accountability, and D. Sustainable development. 1. All sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this constitution. 2. The people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. 3. Sov.
There is no doubt that part of the problem in Africa has always been political thuggery, which has been aided, abetted, and excused by elites in order to personally benefit from governance. Good governance appears to be too tricky for most African leaders owing to the greed, selfishness, and arrogance that has, in the past, led to some despotic rulers plunging their countries to war for personal gain. When at the helm of power, our leaders seem to mechanically be blinded by self-interest and fail to see that the continent is walking a precarious path. To break the shackles of our past, we must strive for a better future. What you need to know. Who lied to you that this nation is under the control of a few powerful individuals? Quite frankly, we need an awakening in Kenya. We deserve better leaders, not tribal kingpins. The African leaders who choose power before the people. The principle of government by the people for the people has been subsumed by the will of some African leaders to cling to power. African leaders need to stop this attitude of wastefulness and become a government of the people. They need to expose neocolonialism approaches and be transparent with the people so that the youth can work with them to fight for a better future. There are many hidden messages in this post, and I hope visionary African youths and leaders can read between the lines. Improving public financial management, for example by supporting county governments on budgeting, reporting and independent auditing. This allows citizens to have a say in what is important for them and to check the quality of services being delivered, and should help money get to where it is most needed. INL's specific priorities to combat anti-corruption are: strengthen regimes to prevent corruption and bring corrupt actors to justice. Enhance international cooperation and partnerships. Denying safe haven. Recognize reform. Leverage coordination and learning to combat corruption. It's a transformative force in the country's political arena, characterized by their proactive engagement, digital fluency, and commitment to social justice. Born into a world of rapid technological advancement and interconnectedness, Generation Z has leveraged digital platforms to amplify their voices, mobilize communities, and advocate for systemic change. Their activism is fueled by a strong desire for transparency, accountability, and inclusivity in governance, challenging traditional power dynamics and demanding a political environment that reflects their values and priorities.
Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Education liberates the intellect, unlocks the imagination and is fundamental for self-respect. It is the key to prosperity and opens a world of opportunities, making it possible for each of us to contribute to a progressive, healthy society. Learning benefits every human being and should be available to all. Free primary and secondary education. By 2030, ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable and quality primary and secondary education leading to relevant and effective learning outcomes. Equal access to affordable technical, vocational and higher education. By 2030, ensure equal access for all women and men to affordable and quality technical, vocational and tertiary education, including university.
Making connections. This life skill is at the heart of learning, figuring out what's the same, what's different, and sorting them into categories. Making unusual connections is at the core of creativity and moves children beyond knowing information to using information well. The above attributes of Ubuntu show that an African society, which is humanist in nature, is also more community-based and socialist than Western society. It takes a whole village community to raise a child. The song's creation stemmed from a conversation that the band leader, Teddy Harrison, overheard while performing in a hotel in Mombasa. There were two tourists trying to speak Swahili and practicing basic conversational phrases. Harrison wrote the song using the same simple phrases to teach Swahili to foreigners. The Mushroom's original lyrics are translated below. Jambo, Jambo Bwana, hello, hello sir. Habari gani, how are you? Nzuri sana, very fine. Wajani, wakaribishwa, foreigners, you're welcome. Kenya yetu, hakuna matata, our Kenya has no problems.
Jambo, Jambo Bwana.
What is training and development? Training and development in human resource management is the process of acquiring knowledge, skills, and attitude that helps improve employees' job performance and enables future career growth. Training refers to acquiring specific knowledge and skills for a particular job or task. It is usually a short-term activity concerned with improving an employee's current job performance. It includes formal training courses, on-the-job training, or coaching sessions. Inadequate skills, knowledge, and information. A large proportion of the youth have limited access to hands-on training, information, and cutting-edge technologies. Where the innovation opportunities are available, affordability and funding remains a constraint. Agriculture is not an examinable subject in primary and secondary school, therefore creating a lack of interest amongst students and teachers. Low exposure to practical skills and limited opportunities in internships and mentorships also contribute to lack of skills. Parents and teachers play a role in creating a negative attitude in agriculture, using it as a source of punishment and a career for non-performing students. Civic knowledge and skills, where youth gain an understanding of the processes of government, prevalent political ideologies, civic and constitutional rights, and the history and heritage of the above. Civic values and dispositions, where youth gain an appreciation for civil discourse, free speech, and engaging with those whose perspectives differ from their own. Civic behaviors, where students develop the civic agency and confidence to vote, volunteer, attend public meetings, and engage with their communities. The National Food and Nutrition Security Council will be the highest decision-making body in the proposed structure. It will provide leadership and a national platform for review of progress on implementation of the Council will direct commitment of national resources for effective implementation of the FNS policy, provide policy direction, guidance and oversight on food and nutrition security matters, direct commitment of national resources for effective implementation of the food and nutrition security strategy, approve and oversee the implementation of the National Food and Nutrition Implementation Framework, ensure mainstreaming of national food and nutrition policy function by the national and county government. The government of Kenya is strongly committed to reducing hunger and malnutrition. This includes efforts to build self-reliance to reduce chronic food insecurity, as well as measures to assist those in need when emergencies occur. Linking relief with longer-term development efforts helps mitigate the potential impact of future emergencies. Food and nutrition security refers to a situation where all people, at all times, have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. Nearly 30% of Kenya's children are classified as undernourished, and micronutrient deficiencies are widespread. How agriculture affects climate change. A few ways that agriculture contributes to climate change are: degrade soils by planting monocultures, relying on synthetic fertilizer, and tilling fields regularly. Reduces diversity by transforming landscapes from biodiverse ecosystems to monocultural fields. Pollutes the land by relying heavily on fertilizers and pesticides. Releases greenhouse gases, primarily through soil management, livestock digestive processes, manure management, and other practices. Significantly contributes to global deforestation, which triggers the release of carbon stored in trees. The term influencer has become quite ubiquitous in the online space, especially in social media marketing. What was previously being done by celebrities is now taken over by regular people with large followings on social media platforms. These individuals are called influencers, and they founded a new branch of marketing, influencer marketing. What do influencers do? Influencers do just what their name suggests, they influence people. They do so by creating content for brands, running branded giveaways, attending events, sharing personal experiences, or building a community for brands. Influencers also create a positive brand reputation online by advocating for a product or service and recommending it to their followers. The event live streaming production technician is the go-to person on-site for all events and live stream videos. This role involves ensuring everything is ready to go prior to shooting. They assist with sound and lighting, and make sure all the cords are in the right place and out of the way. What is the job description of a live streamer? Introduction. Live streamers create and/or host video shows in real time on social media platforms such as YouTube and Twitch, among others. They use smartphones, tablets, and computer webcams to broadcast live events and share them through the internet. What are streaming responsibilities? Live streaming host duties and responsibilities. Event preparation. Guide the event. Creating a fun atmosphere. Following the schedule. Communicating with the product team. Promoting events. Analyze event performance. Creativity, originality and uniqueness of the content. Impact, positive influence and social change driven by the content. Reach, engagement and audience base of the creator. Innovation, fresh approaches and implementation within the content domain. Sustainability, long-term potential and viability of the creator's work. Alignment with goals, how well the content aligns with the National Creators Awards vision of positive social impact. Age, participants must be 18 years of age or older at the time of nomination. Nationality. Indian creators, 19 categories are reserved exclusively for individuals with Indian nationality. International creators, one dedicated category recognizes outstanding creators from outside India. Content platform, content must be published on one or more of the following digital platforms: Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. Language, content submissions can be in Hindi or English or any other Indian language. Rich mindset understands that it cannot do everything, and that even if it could, it would create greater value by focusing on its core strengths. It knows that the right team is greater than the sum of its parts. Poor mindset deludes itself into thinking that it can do everything if it just works hard enough. Rich mindset sticks it out when the going gets tough, provided that the pursuit is worthwhile. It understands the idea of the dip, that anything worth doing will be hard. It understands that the rewards are reaped by those who push through the difficulties of a pursuit precisely because the will to push through is scarce. Poor mindset is discouraged by competition. It complains that someone already got there first, or that they're obviously going to catch up to me, I might as well quit now. Poor mindset deludes itself into believing it knows everything, and that opposing perspectives are wrong before even hearing them. There will come a time when only those that know how to plant will be eating. Chief Oran Lions. If you like African food systems content, please subscribe and share our channel with your friends and family, or if you're new here, hit the subscribe button so you make sure to never miss our weekly presentation podcast. Agriculture is tool to create health, wealth, shelter, protect environment. Food, nutrition and basic skills development for our local communities.